Good afternoon, everyone. Today I will be showing you how to get started with watercolor. Now, there's no right or wrong way to watercolor, just like any other art. It's however you want, but this is how I got started, and it might help those of you who are starting to watercolor and are finding it a bit overwhelming to figure out where to start. So I'm just going to share some of my tips and tricks with you. So the first thing we all notice when we're watercoloring is when the paper wrinkles, that's annoying. So we'll get to that. I'll explain how to fix it. Well, not fix it, but you can make it better. So, every layer of paint will make your paper wrinkle more. This is my book I did for Inktober, and you can see it's a little bit, it's not perfect, but it's okay. It's okay. And so you can start with different layers of paint, like with this one. I started out with a gray base, so it was probably about this color, or maybe a little lighter, that I started with because I wanted it to be darker. And then you can, after it dries, you can add another layer with your coloring and stuff on it to have more of a depth look. But if you do that, be careful not to rub your paper too much and get a bald spot in the paper, because this isn't made for watercolor. But you can still have a lot of depth if you do that. Just make sure your paper is completely dried. So, as you can see, this is not a watercolor. But that doesn't mean that you can't watercolor on cheaper paper. It's just more difficult. Now, this is watercolor paper, and you'll notice that it's quite a bit thicker, so it doesn't wrinkle as much. So I always like to have an extra paper like this. And if you're impatient like me, you're not gonna want to do the different layers and stuff. I was just trying different stuff, But most of the trick is with keeping the colors from not running. I like to wet the paint first. If you can remember what colors you want, and just kind of get them soaking. I think we want some green. If you're saying, "Oh, Broken, you're getting your brush dirty," no, because the paint isn't wet yet. Well, if I did it now, my brush would get dirty, obviously, but it's not. So my brush isn't very wet, and I always start in the middle. See, there's too much water, so I come back and get some more paint. Shaky hands. Okay. It starts to dry. Just get the corner of your brush, just tiny bit wet, not too much. And if you find your brush got too dry, like right there, get a quick dip and smooth it out. But you can see the paper is kind of wanting to wrinkle there. So we'll stay away from it for a minute, because usually when it starts to wrinkle, you're rubbing layers off the paper, so it will become more sticky. And you're gonna get a hole in your paper, and then it's gonna bleed through on the other side. Oh, that was too much water. And if you get too much water, there's no hurt in coming back like this away from the edge. Just so it's safe to assume it's not going to run. I missed an important step. Okay, so you take this extra paper and you stick it in here so that it doesn't get your other side wet if it does seep through. So you can see the paper's already wanting to stick up. Alright, just a tiny bit of water. I'm gonna scoot it over here more. Just a little bit of water. It's not like markers that if you go over it twice, then it's gonna have a different color than over here. So don't be afraid to stay away from the line a little bit. You can always come back and fix that while the paint's wet. But most artists will get a lot of water on their brush and just kind of let the color go where it wants. And that's okay. I'm not saying that's wrong, but they are also experienced artists and they know what they want their art style to look like. So just start out with simple stuff and don't expect it to look perfect like these other watercolored people do. It's okay to have your brush a little bit dry, because if you're doing smaller details, it's annoying if it wants to run. It also helps if you have a smaller brush and less shaky hands. I do have a shaky brush. A smaller brush. Okay, I can't even do language now. And if you get it over the line a little bit, that's okay. We all do that at one point in time. So we can just cover it up with another color, but try not to touch the two colors together like that too much, because you know the other one's still pretty wet. Oh, I got my finger in it. And it's mandatory for an artist to have paint everywhere. Like, you find it on the ceiling in your closet, you find it in the bottom of your shoe. It's everywhere, you know, you can't escape it. So, yeah, just expect that. When I'm doing the sky, I like to have just a tiny bit extra water, but not enough to make it too runny. But watercolors are supposed to be blotchy like this, in theory. But that's just kind of the style that I want. Just more relaxed. Even though it's not the person I am, but whatever, leave me alone. I want to pretend like I am being a nicer person, relaxed, you know? So we're gonna put the sun right here, like one of those weird drawings we used to do as a kid with the sun that is not a complete circle. It's just it's just there. It just kind of exists. And if you get a spot that's too dark, it's okay to go back and forth real quick like that. But don't go for a while, because see the little blotchy spots? That means that's part of the paper coming apart. So that's just kind of a concern to not have a hole in the paper. I know I've said that a few times, but you know, I gotta make sure that I get my point across, you know? So then I go back over the same thing that I just told you guys not to do. Now the sun's gonna be green. What do you think about that? Okay, so the green is right there. Yeah, so if you can remember what you're actually doing, that helps a lot too. You know, just kind of remember once in a while, maybe kind of sort of pretend you know what you're doing. And the water palette will look a lot better if you remember that the brown is not green. And if that's too dark, just go over here and grab some lighter green with some water. Smear it around. Oh, whoops, I got it on the path. Oh well, it just looks like grass growing over it. That's all. At least you kind of know what it is. Oh, see, I just dipped my brush. I'm going to stick it over here, make sure it's okay. I'm going to finish over here really quick and come back to it. Because if you have just a tiny little bit left, you don't want to risk having it too dark or something with no room to fix it. That's why I always start a better place. See, I went on the river right there. So it's no big deal that you overlap and make so-called a mistake. Someone once told me that a good artist makes a mistake look like perfection because you make it look like that's what you wanted to do. But so far I really like watercolor. It's been fun to experiment with. It's more relaxed than the other art that I do. And keep in mind that this is grass, so it's going to be going in different directions. And if you have wind, we can just kind of make it go in the wind direction. When you're doing a big space like that, the brush gets dry quickly. Alright, so if you haven't noticed, this was a requested video by someone, and you know, well, if you get a hole started, don't pick at it, Hollow. Yeah, I know you're watching. You can't pick at something. You think, oh, there's a dark spot right there. I can get it more not dark and pick at it. And then you have a hole in the paper right there. And then what are you gonna do? Also, the other artists that have more water in their watercolor, they probably just have the watercolored paper that's actually made for this, so you can just stick a lot more water on it. Anyway, point is, don't get your brush too wet. And it's okay to make mistakes. It's okay. Just look at this. This is a mistake. Don't tell me you make mistakes too. It's art. It's going to look bad in the artist's eyes. But don't look at it like that. See, once you get your first coat down, we're kind of pushing our luck here, adding some more color. But it's okay. Because we're all impatient, you know. We don't want to wait. And then just kind of once you're happy with it like this, there's just a spot right here that bothers me. And if you find you've missed a spot like this little white spot right here, don't put color on your brush. Just kind of get it damp and go, and it'll blend the colors together. So, yeah, now that we're happy with the base colors, then, yeah, I'm not happy with it. I'm gonna put a tree here somewhere. Do we want to put a tree? Oh, we want a grass. We want grass or something. Yum. Yes. Grass that will probably look very horrible in this picture, but I do not care. We need something more in this picture. Ah, yes. Beautiful grass right there. I'm gonna give it a flower. Brush, go swim. Alright. Now, I do not remember which one is the red, so I'm just gonna pick one. Because the red and the pink look like really close to the same. Ah, yes. Cactus flower. Isn't it beautiful? Anyway, gonna let that sit for a minute and let it dry. Kinda. Okay, it's probably been like 2 minutes or something. So it's not dry. You can see when you stick your finger in it, it's not dry. So if we're impatient, we're gonna stick this paper real quick and like see how that goes. And you know, we're gonna do it again. It absorbs the paint because we are not patient enough to wait. So Now we wait till it doesn't stick to the finger anymore. No, I don't recommend sticking your finger in the paint, because if you create some kind of war crimes or something, you know, people are gonna be able to trace it. But yeah, just stick your finger in it and lick your finger. No, don't do that. Don't create war crimes either without me. So that's you know, it's dry enough. See, it's good enough. So we're gonna make sure it's dry on this paper. And we're gonna stick it here, and then close it up, and stick something heavy on it, and then leave it overnight, and you will have a nice flat paper with your drawing, painting, or both. So yeah, don't forget the paper that goes between there so it doesn't bleed through on the other paper. So tomorrow when it's dry, you can either add to it with colored pencils or add another layer of paint, whatever. But yeah. Let me know if you want a part 2. Goodbye.